Hey, and welcome to Talent Acquisition Trends and Strategy. Today we're joined by James Lafferty. James, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with you today, and I'm excited about the topics we have to discuss. But before we jump into it all, would you mind just sharing with everybody a little bit about yourself?
Cool. Yeah, of course. So, I'm James. I'm originally from the UK, but I'm based in Austin, Texas. I've got a long journey how I ended up here from the UK, but I started off in recruitment in the agency world. So back in a place called Reading, just outside of London, and worked for a couple of different companies. But my most recent one was a company called Austin Fraser, where I was the VP of recruiting. It's a tech staffing agency, and moved out to Austin in 2015, and worked there until 2021. And then now I'm at Epicor Software, 4,000 person software company based in Austin.
Yep, and you're running it's a 30-person talent acquisition department at this point in time.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm the VP of talent acquisition. So my role, I've got a team of 30 based from Malaysia, India, Europe, US, Mexico. I've got it all over. Get to travel to some weird and wonderful places.
Nice, that's amazing. So look, the first topic I want to dive into is revolving around candidate experience. Obviously, it's still a tight labor market. Some crazy stuff is happening right now in the market. However, in tech talent is still in high demand, right? Regardless of the headlines. And we have to do everything we can to optimize the experience for candidates in our funnel, to optimize conversion rates, and ensure that we can get the best fit individuals all the way through the funnel and have a good offer acceptance rate of top talent. So I would love to learn a little bit about what you all are doing for candidate experience, and since you've come into the organization that you're currently at, just what are some of the steps and motions you're going through to ensure that it's a strong candidate experience from end to end?
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. So I think that before going into the specifics of what we're actually doing, I think going back to, I guess, let's say pre-COVID or like remote working, the way of people's sort of job searches was slightly different to it is now. And I'm thinking about, when I was looking for work, I'd just drop a pin on my house on the map, and then I'd say, any companies within 15 miles, or whatever you're willing to drive each day, and those are the companies you can work for, right? And so there were much less opportunity, and you just sort of chose the best ones within the a fair commute time. Obviously, fast forward 2020, when the world all changed and lots of companies decided that remote was the way forward. It removed that pin, or it removed the radius that you were willing to commute, and it opened it up to either nationally, internationally. It kind of meant that there was a lot more competition for the best candidates, which I guess that meant that some companies thrived and some barely survived. And so some of the things, well, we had to look at our candidate experience, how we're showing up in the marketplace. And I think you can talk the attraction piece to start with, is look at the cities that you're located in, or whether you're looking remote, the job ads, or the candidate experience really starts from when they first hear about your employer brand. I think people now, with so much choice, will look into the companies before applying or before choosing to go to interviews. And that can be your online reviews. It could be looking at LinkedIn at who's doing the job, who previously did the job. We've had some people who have reached out to ex-employees to go, what was it really like? I've read the Glassdoor, I've read the good, I've read the bad. What's it really like? And people are taking a lot more time to research it. And so I think for the candidate experience, we've gone through looking at everything from our job ads, when someone, putting ourselves in the shoes of the candidate. So if I'm applying to a job, how many clicks does it take for me to actually apply? When I'm putting in my details, it goes, upload your resume. Okay, and now do I have to add in all the same information on another page? I mean, it's things like that. It took us quite a few months to actually do the whole journey and go, this is what it looks like. And then looking at the communications for the emails that get triggered or sent for each one. It was originally the individual recruiter's responsibility to reach out to these candidates, but we've kind of automated a lot of it in the tone of voice and working with our EVP and making sure that we're speaking the same language and it's not too corporate or too stuffy, but appealing to the people who want these jobs.
Right, for sure. I mean, I think that's like your just definition of candidate experience, looking holistically at removing friction and providing insight, and just looking at it from their first interaction with the brand is crucial, because I think a lot of people, when they think about candidate experience, they're just thinking about like the interview process.
Yeah.
And it's just so much more than that, like just producing assets even, right? Like on the careers page and others and other places too, but just outlining what it's like to work at the organization, discussing the culture, discussing the onboarding experience, discussing how professional development and career road mapping works within the organization, providing those types of assets. Candidates are going to value, because they're going to, at least subconsciously think, okay, how, the way that I'm interacting with them now is going to be reflected in how I interact with this company as an employee. And so it's one of those things they're going to make a judgment call based on how invested the organization seems to be in their people functions, right? Whether that's as a candidate or as an employee. So I think you hit the nail on the head, and it starts like kind of with the big picture strategy and understanding of how important this is, but being able to get into the tactics and kind of do like an experience workflow, almost like from a UX perspective and software, right? Like going through like, kind of mirroring like, okay, what is a user doing in this situation? That's kind of like what you were saying. It's like, all right, if I'm applying for a job, how many clicks, like how much of a headache, what's going on with the resume? Do I have to re-enter the same information? Like that is stuff that people generally, when they're talking about candidate experience, do not get that specific. And they're not really thinking about it from a perspective of like, how can I remove friction and provide information that people need, which is really what it's all about, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And we wanted to make it, removing the friction is a really good term, because we want to make it really easy to apply. It was like, we're opening the gates, but not lowering the bar is what we're looking to do.
I love that. That's a really cool. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
And so my background, I spent 15 years or so working for a recruitment agency, a tech recruitment agency. So I worked with Fortune 500 companies with their hiring, to startups with 5 people sat in a garage. So I saw some great examples of people doing the candidate experience really well, and I saw ones where they did it really poorly. And so I learned a lot from these hundreds of different companies to kind of fine tune what we're doing at Epicor.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, starting from the agency side is, I think, it served me very well. Even when building out in-house talent acquisition solutions, I think it actually gave me a competitive advantage to recruiters that started in-house. To be clear, there's a lot of great recruiters that start in-house. So I'm not saying there's a million different ways to arrive at success later in your career, but I will say that, starting on the career side really helped me understand and view talent acquisition as a funnel and optimize it similar to a demand motion or a sales funnel, and start to think about it like that in terms of conversion rates and optimizing for top loss reasons and time and stage. And those are things that I learned on the agency side that I'm not sure that as many recruiters learn when they start in-house.
And when you're working agency side, you're right. Success comes in many walks of life, right? So, but I guess I could talk to my own experience, and when you're working, it's predominantly a commission-based job, right? So your motivations are to find the right people and to find them as quickly as possible. And so that meant we'd call ourselves consultants, because we would go into a business, understand what they're trying to look for, and then we come up with the solutions to then go, well, if you're looking for this type of talent, this is the process you should follow, and here's the expectations of how long it will take. And it really, maybe if I'm thinking about some of the startups that I worked with, sometimes had the best candidate experience because they were sometimes more agile. They were able to change their process. They were able to give candidates more sort of levels of engagement throughout the process.
Yeah, for sure. I saw that too, except there's sometimes though, like I'll work with tech customers where they're like ex Google or like ex big tech, and they're used to everybody just knocking at their door, lining up, and they're this like little Series A company, and they're like, wait, why don't we have 100 inbound applications, or wait, why is this search going to take me 45 to 60 days? And they just, but you're right. Like typically speaking, like the startups they're a lot more flexible as long as they're bought into doing talent acquisition the right way and don't see recruiting as this like transactional light switch that they can just kind of flip on and off. Like they have to be invested in optimizing the experience, as you said, and optimizing a lot more. And as long as they're open to that, I mean, that's the one thing we're lucky because in our model as an RPO, typically the customers that sign up with us are really committed to doing things the right way. I remember that being a little bit more challenging on the contingent side, where we got like a kind of a mixed bag where we did work with a lot of customers that like really didn't want to commit to strategic changes. But yeah, it's definitely, it makes a huge difference. Like what's the culture of the organization? Like, do they truly understand that people are the primary driver of value?
Yeah.
And as a result, do they invest in people ops? Do they invest in talent acquisition? Right.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So there's so much. So different size companies have different successes depending on their openness to continuous improvement is probably the better way to put it. So we looked at the three things that we look at. It's the attraction, then the engagement through the process, and then the conversion. And within those, there's so much to sort of unpack. We kind of talked a bit about the attraction piece, but then once someone has applied, they have shown interest, then you move on to like what's their experience like with the recruiter? Does the recruiter understand the why? Why would this candidate join this business, or why are they looking to move? What are their drivers? Does it align with, the company align with their values and their, I say work-life balance as well, because that's become huge. So then engagement through the process. How many hoops is everyone having to jump through to join? And then that comes on to the conversion, and then we measuring that as well.
For sure. Well, just getting, when you're talking about engagement and getting to the why, I feel like you learn a lot about that on the agency side too, right? And like one thing that I back when I was an IC, individual contributor doing recruiting, I mean, I got really good at that, right? And even starting my own company, like that was something where I was very good at getting to the bottom of what matters to people. And then I never pitched my client the same way twice. Like there was a kind of a script, if you will, of like points I wanted to hit typically, but it was always very nuanced to speak to what matters to the person on the other end of the phone, right? Like, so if somebody was really focused on professional development, then when I'm pitching the company, I'm going to talk about professional development, right? I'm going to talk about that. If they're passionate about, they got 5 kids and they really need to understand benefits, right? Like, okay, that's what I'm going to talk about, right? And that's, that's a big part about being a senior recruiter is how well can you uncover what matters. And sometimes it's like simple and it's in your face. And sometimes it's a little bit more nuanced, right? Where they don't really come out and say it. And that's where it's like developing a relationship with the candidate. So, as you get closer to close, for the lack of a better term, you can help guide them through the process and help them make the right decision. And you get, the point is like, if you're doing recruiting long enough, you're going to get to the point where you're really, really good at this. So you got to be careful too, because you don't want to like oversell or over persuade in a sense where like somebody's going to, you want to make sure it's the right fit, obviously, for them. And that's going to impact quality of hire and longevity and tenure and these types of things. But, a good recruiter knows how to tell that story, hitting on the points that matters to the candidate, keeping it relevant, for that on a candidate basis. Right. And that's why I'm always talking about like not going high volume as an approach to talent acquisition, like capping rec loads. Obviously, it's situational based on the environment, but ensuring that we're putting relationships first and experience first. And you can't usually do that in tech if you're working like 50 recs at once, usually, right? I mean,
yeah. So I think so. What something that we've done is an approach to, rather than just filling jobs, is because when you've got that, some people have got a real high rec load. It's just basically like every day trying to get that rec load down, and it's like a never-ending task. And what we've looked at is each recruiter having a prioritization of the recs they're working, but also the approach to candidates applying to jobs isn't, you're not just applying to a job, you're applying to the company, and it's our job as talent acquisition to find the right opportunities for these candidates. And so we've had it several times, or a number of times this year, where candidates have applied to a job and they've ended up getting a different job within the company, and that's, we call them our talent communities. So you can go onto like our website, and this is something we've developed since I've been there, and you can join our talent community. So if you go onto our jobs page, there's always lots of jobs, right? Lots of opportunity. We're a growing business. However, if you don't find that perfect job, you can set up your own profile. You can say, I'm interested in these kind of jobs, and you'll be basically first to know about new jobs coming up.
Wait, so what portal is that exactly? Like, where is that done?
So that's on our jobs page. So you can create a login. And so, yeah, if I'm a candidate, I want a job within finance at Epicor, I can go on and say, hey, there's no finance jobs for me right now. I create a profile, and then you basically get alerts for all the relevant jobs.
So that jobs page, is that like custom coded? Like that's something that y'all built? Does that attach into your ATS, or where is it, like a different
That's
CRM?
Right. Yeah, so it's attached to our ATS and CRM. And
Okay.
So all of our recruiters will focus on a specific vertical. So they will focus, let's say just finance recruiting, as we go down that path, and they can see, oh, well, all of these people have signed up to say they're interested about this specific finance jobs. We didn't have anything for them at the time. However, I'll connect with them because they've engaged with us.
Yeah,
job.
That's pretty slick. What ATS do y'all use?
So we use Aperture.
Okay. Do you like it?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
It's been so when I joined in September last year, and it was going through, we were with Oracle Taleo, and Aperture was going live like 2 months later. So I kind of joined mid build implementation. So my onboarding was just like having to learn an old database that we were going to get rid of, and a new database which we were building. And do you know what, looking back, I was like, actually it was quite good, because I could build some, come in at the end and help build something, and add things on like this talent community, which I knew would be beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, the talent community is cool. And what you're talking about in terms of people applying and then ultimately taking on a different role than the one they applied for, to me, I always see that as like a positive indicator that it's a little bit more of a sophisticated, mature talent acquisition function that's been built out.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the way it should be. And then to take it a step further, it's like same thing with employees. Like, before you go out and hire, just thinking about, is there a way to reallocate internal employees to give them the professional development and growth they want and help them move within the organization too? That's, a lot of companies like Hypergrowth Tech, for instance, right? Maybe clients that we both have worked with throughout the years on the agency side. A lot of them struggle with that. Like they're not necessarily as mature when it comes to figuring out how to reallocate resources internally and building out these talent communities. And
that's I guess the vision of it is to, when people sign up to these talent communities, let's say that someone's let's say Python engineer, a Python developer, and that's what they do, and that's what they know and love. I would love, for one of our lead architects to be, writing their blog or talking about what they're producing at Epicor, like, say, this is how I'm using Python in my everyday work, and this is the impact it's having on the business. Create that, and then send that out to the people in those communities, because you're speaking their language about what, and it's creating that level of engagement. You're not just saying, hey, here's a list of jobs, but it's actually like, here's what you're interested in, and here's how we use it. So that's where I would like to get to. But talking about the internal mobility and internal movement, that same talent community is available to our employees as well. Someone could be a developer who wants to get into product management, and they can sign up to those kind of jobs as well and learn about what it's going to take. We match them up, say, well, in order to do this, here's some courses, and we use a learning management system that we can send them out these courses so they can actually upskill themselves and decide that's what I want to do. Right. I was speaking to someone a few months ago in the company, and he was a software engineer, really wanted to get into cybersecurity, so got provided with all these cybersecurity courses, and then went, hey, I don't want to do this. and was like, but I feel that that's great, because that person could have easily gone elsewhere, external, taken a cybersecurity job, hated it, and then been like, we've lost someone. They either come back or they go and find another job, but we've actually helped them discover what they do and they don't want. But it's all part of like that experience.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree more. And we coming up, we got about 7 minutes, a little bit more today. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about just career pathing for recruiters that want to move up into talent leadership. I think we could just kind of start at the individual contributor level and then work our way up to managers, directors, and ultimately moving into like a VP level function or point of impact. What is your advice to your very ambitious recruiters on your team that want to move into team lead, want to move into their first management role? What have you learned throughout the years, and what are the key takeaways, and how do you help people grow professionally that want to move up?
Yeah, sure. Like a lot of people, I'm the same as a lot of people who just fell into the world of recruiting. I happen to be pretty good at it. So then it's like, oh, can you teach these other people how to do what you're doing? And then I just sort of naturally moved into that. My advice, looking back at my career, I made some good decisions, some bad decisions, but it's always been learning, and I've always been like so true to my values. And I think that that's something. What my advice is, just you got to be your own leader, right? Or be yourself, and I understand what you want, but you don't have to get there before doing it. So what I'm saying to our say the individual contributors who want to be team leaders, I'm saying when we bring people on, ask for get the opportunity to say, I want to help onboard this person. I want to show them specific areas of recruitment that I'm particularly passionate about. And we've always done like master classes. So our senior recruiters or more experienced recruiters will run, we call them master classes, to larger groups of maybe more junior recruiters to give them the taste of like what it's like to teach others. And I think that my advice is just understand your values, understand what you want to do, and then ask the questions of your leaders, like, this is what they've got to share the same vision. This is what I want to do. And asking, how do I get there? What does it take for me to be given that opportunity? And then sometimes just take the opportunity, take it upon yourself to help people set up for success. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, just putting yourself out there and saying, I want this, right? I mean, that's such a big part of it. And a lot of leaders appreciate that. Like a lot of leaders are ambitious and they worked hard to get to where they are. And if somebody's like in an IC role, like nothing fires me up more than like somebody who's applying for the company. Like I actually just had an interview today. It's for a operations specialist position. Okay. And the person who reached out to me was like, I want to be a COO one day. And I'm just like, I love it. All right, let's talk about that. Right. And I mean, that's just, I think people, just be willing to put yourself out there, be a little bit vulnerable. even if it's outside of your comfort zone, and just be comfortable talking about your goals and what you want to accomplish. And don't be worried about, oh, is this going to come across as like, who am I to think that I'm going to be a C-level or that I could be a VP? Like, you can't, even if it doesn't feel natural, be willing to go out of your comfort zone, because when you're going out of your comfort zone is when you're growing. And
100%.
yeah,
I
it's just
completely agree.
right. I mean, you got to be willing to do it. And again, I understand that it's not always easy, but
I think
it's lifting. You gotta push. That's
yeah. I think what I've been fortunate enough to work with some great leaders in the past that have not just taught me like how to lead, but given me I'd say like the safe space. Yeah. I've made some let's say like leadership mistakes in the past. Like, you know, everyone makes mistakes, but I didn't really fear the ramifications of that, because it was, I knew I could honestly go back to my boss and say, hey, this hasn't turned out how I wanted. This is what I did. This is probably what I do next time. How can I improve for the future? And it not being like, you know, I'm not scared of being told off, but actually like the openness and open approach and honesty, and being able to give and receive feedback as well, those are like have been real crucial to me and my growth.
right. You got to be coachable.
Yeah.
You got to, you know, I mean, you got to be willing to make mistakes, to put yourself out there, to have all those kind of little like micro failures along the way. Just make sure to learn from them.
Oh,
And,
like I
know?
learn every day. Every day I learn something new. And you know, I think that's why I love the world of like talent acquisition and recruiting, even in like whether it's agency side or like internal. Just like I'm dealing with, you know, different countries, different types of positions, different candidate situations. Like whether you're an individual contributor or you're a leader, I think you're always faced with different situations which you've never experienced before. May have had similar situations, but you've got to be in a place of like continuously learning and asking questions to really truly understand.
For sure. I mean, and sometimes this can be hard too, to get on a leader's calendar. But even if you don't have like a one-on-one call scheduled with like a VP because you're reporting to a manager, I mean, I guess some of this depends on the culture, but hopefully if it's not too cagey, like reach out to the VP and just be like, hey, could we set up a 20-minute call once a month? Like I've had a couple people do that with me at Secure Vision. And I mean, I guess like if everybody did it, I'd have to, you know, but everybody doesn't, you know? And so it's if one or two people are like ambitious and put themselves out there and go for it, I'm inclined to try to facilitate that conversation.
Yeah. And I'm my, like I say, virtual door is always open to speaking to anyone to help them with their journey. Mm-hmm. But I also found that not just working within or networking with people in your own team, but like whether it's externally in different companies or from different functions as well. I've learned a lot from people who have no idea about talent acquisition, but they're I've spoken to them on LinkedIn, or we've met at happy hour, and I've taken them for coffee because I want to learn how they lead their teams. And because you can sometimes get a bit myopic, whether you're just working, they just understand recruitment and they'll teach you about how they would do it, whereas I want to know from someone in project management, how do they run their teams? And you can learn a whole bunch of stuff with a new approach or a different background.
I'm so happy you brought up this point, because this is one of the biggest lessons learned that I've had in my career, is that if you were feeling stuck, do not fall in the trap of trying to figure it out yourself. Most of the times, if you're stuck, what it means is that you need to meet a new person that has been through it before and can tell you how to do it, or you just need to have new experiences. Like, I think we just I was at a CEO offsite a few weeks ago. And one of the things that I'm trying to do in the next 6 months is set up a board of directors. And I was getting caught up in all like the details of like, I don't really know how to do this. Like, I'm trying to learn, I'm talking to all these people. And then one of the CEOs was just like, why don't you just retain a law firm that specializes in this? And I'm like, oh, I did it again. I fell in the trap. Right. And we fall in that trap of like trying to do stuff ourselves. And usually the most direct path to success is just new experiences, new people talking, learning from each other. And so I just always recommend if anybody's ever feeling kind of stuck in their career, that's the first thing to do. Don't open like a textbook and like try to figure it out. Get on the call with somebody, talk to some new people. And that's usually going to be the thing that gets you the result you're looking for.
That's love that. 'Cause it's always if they can ask the right questions, you can sometimes figure it out yourself, or they give you a different perspective that, like you just said about your board of directors, you're like, it's so simple. Why didn't I think of that?
Right.
You just get a bit cloudy and just you need that little boost from someone
I
else.
know, man. I still do it. It's like once a quarter, I like fall down this rabbit hole of trying to figure shit out. And then I just like, I'm like, wait, why am I doing like, I shouldn't be the one doing this. There's somebody who's been doing this for 20, 30 years that specializes in this. And I can get that 20 or 30 years of knowledge for an advisory fee on an hourly basis, or being part of a networking group where people are just openly sharing their experiences. Another example, we were trying to optimize our sales, and I went down this rabbit hole of like trying to just research, and I was like, wait a second, no, who's the best revenue advisor in tech? I don't care how much, even if it's like what seems like a ton of money on an hourly basis, it's still so dirt cheap when you consider the fact that you're leveraging that 30 years of experience and you're learning it in an hour.
Well, this is basically like, it takes me back to the agency days where I'm like, you could try and do it yourself and have a lot of pain and heartache, or you could pay an expert to do it and get you guaranteed results, right? And so like with those law firms or the people who, you're paying for that experience. It's a bit like the recruitment. If people come to you for good candidates, you need to go to others when you need that help.
Absolutely. I think that's probably the best career advice we can give people. Like what you said too, just being proactive, offering to pitch in, offer to help. Don't have the limited psychology of like, I'm not going to do that if I'm not being paid for it. Like, don't let people take advantage of you, but just understand that in order to grow, you're going to have to learn stuff and add more value. You're going to be compensated in relation to the value that you're adding to the organization. Maybe not overnight. It's not a immediate gratification type of thing, but if you are becoming more valuable and learning in the mid to long run, you're ultimately going to be compensated more and have more professional development opportunities, right? So
exactly.
Yeah. Well, it worked for us. I hope it's working for those that are tuning in and are looking to move up. And James, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And for everybody else tuning in, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Take care.